Disney movies have always featured amazing battles between the forces of good and evil, and even if these movies are geared towards younger audiences, it doesn't make them any less epic. Some of the coolest and most powerful weapons ever have come out of Disney movies. But which are the strongest? Today we're breaking down 10 of the most powerful weapons in Disney history, so keep watching for all of the amazing details. Maleficent's staff. The powerful sorceress Maleficent has been an iconic Disney villain since Sleeping Beauty was first released in 1959. But in recent years, she was given a seriously awesome update at the hands of Angelina Jolie. In the original animated film, we were introduced to Maleficent's staff. Not just any old walking stick, this staff is a magical golden scepter that, when wielded by the Dark Fairy herself, can cause a ton of damage. She uses it in a handful of equally impressive ways. The first is, of course, the curse that she puts on Sleeping Beauty, aka Aurora. The curse states that
before the sun sets on her 16th birthday,
she will prick her finger on a spinning wheel, which will end her life. Luckily for Aurora, her fairy godmother Merryweather made it so that she would simply fall into a deep slumber. When Aurora's father orders his guards to arrest Maleficent for this act, she easily fends them off with the power of her staff, and later uses it to punish her lackeys for failing in their mission to find Aurora long before her birthday. All in all, we wouldn't want to mess with Maleficent, especially with her staff in hand. Rapunzel's frying pan. When you think of a frying pan, the first thing that comes to mind is probably not super badass powerful weapon. And yet in 2010, Rapunzel showed us just how awesome one of these simple household items could be in Tangled. At first, she uses it just like you would imagine. She surprises Flynn with a serious whack to the head with it when he spooks her by entering her tower. It's just like they always say, never sneak up on a princess in a tower. After that, she doesn't ditch her trusty weapon when she finally escapes her isolation. And it comes in handy more than once throughout the rest of the film. Even Flynn takes a turn when he uses it to fight off Maximus and the palace guards in an epic battle between pan and swords.
Oh, Mama, I have got to get me one of these!
You'd assume that the sword would come out on top, but the heavy metal pan really holds its own. He almost loses it over the edge of a cliff at one point during the fight, when Maximus knocks the pan out of Flynn's hand during that fight. But he gets a hold of it again after the dam breaks. We like to think that Flynn and Rapunzel make delicious meals together with that pan long after all the drama has died down. Maui's hook. Moana was without a doubt one of the best Disney movies to come out in recent years, and its look into Polynesian mythology was super interesting for those of us who weren't familiar with it to begin with. The movie introduced us to an awesome weapon too that, when wielded by Maui, is so much more than any tool we've ever seen before. We are, of course, talking about the fishhook, a very impressive bone-like weapon that was crafted by the gods in Polynesian lore. The fishhook was given to Maui by the gods after they adopted him and turned him into a demigod with incredible supernatural powers. He had since used it for many years in all of his exploits because of its impressive mystical abilities. Just like Maui himself, the fishhook is emblazoned with markings that tell the tales of all the adventures it had been part of. Maui said in the movie that he had previously used the fishhook to pull islands out of the sea, battle unimaginable monsters, and even slow down the sun. But the best thing about the fishhook is that it is so much more than just a weapon meant for hurting others. Maui uses it ceremonially in his dances, and it's really amazing to see. Night Howlers. One of the most important elements in the 2016 movie Zootopia has got to be the Night Howlers.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
These toxic flowers have the power to turn otherwise well-mannered mammals into wild, unpredictable, sometimes violent creatures. In the movie, the dangerous flowers are used by Bellwether and Doug in order to turn the predator mammals unwittingly aggressive. While these guys don't want to be violent, it's all part of the scheming duo's plan to take over Zootopia by forcing the prey to turn against the predators. And seeing as how the prey are the largest part of the population, the effects are quickly pretty catastrophic. Suddenly, hate speech and propaganda against the predators overwhelms Zootopia, and the once peaceful city becomes more divided than ever. All because of the effects of these powerful flowers, which Doug distilled down into a drug and had been shooting predators with using a dart gun. It even affected Mr. Otterton, the lovable otter. Armageddon bow. The 1997 animated classic Hercules may have messed around with its Greek mythology source material in order to make the movie more kid-friendly, but they kept in quite a few more accurate details. Not only that, but Hercules is without a doubt one of the best Disney movies of all time. Equal parts hilarious and touching with some of the catchiest songs ever, and we can't forget the muses. Hercules still holds up after over 20 years. It also sparked a TV series spin-off called Hercules the Animated Series, which didn't last long but was awesome in its own right. With the introduction of a ton of powerful gods and goddesses, there were bound to be some epic weapons seen among them, but possibly none more so than the Armageddon bow. With the most intimidating name ever, the Armageddon bow fittingly belonged to Ares, the god of war. It was forged, like most mythological Greek weapons, by Hephaestus and can do some serious damage. In classic Mount Olympus style, the bow doesn't just shoot arrows, but lightning bolts. Not only that, but the bow was also given the ability to speak. Unfortunately, it got into the habit of nagging the holder, which really got on the nerves of Ares and Phil. Sword of Shan Yu. While the new live-action update of Mulan is on its way to theaters, we can't bypass the cartoon original, which is definitely up there as one of the most beloved Disney classics.
I'm here.
In it, we met Shan Yu, who has got to be one of the scariest Disney bad guys ever.
Perfect.
Shan Yu is not only giant, but he's also shown to be merciless. In one scene, Mulan's group comes across a small village that has been completely destroyed by Shan Yu and his army, including Yi Shang's father, who tried to defend the civilians. Not only that, but Mulan finds the doll of a little girl, and we're led to believe that she was one of the casualties as well. So not only is Shan Yu a terrifying figure on his own, but he also carries with him a sword that clearly has a ton of power in itself. The giant, extremely sharp blade is first seen when Shan Yu overtakes the Great Wall of China and threatens an Imperial scout. But later on, we see him climb a tree in order to get a view of the land around him, which he does so by chopping off the entire top part of the tree in one swipe. Trident, the Little Mermaid. Under the Sea in The Little Mermaid isn't just a fun place for upbeat musical numbers and wondering what takes place out of the sea.
Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me.
It also happens to be the kingdom of King Triton. Triton is an incredibly powerful merman, made even more so by the fact that he carries his trusty trident. While most of us were introduced to the trident from watching The Little Mermaid, its mythology actually goes back a very long way. Long before Walt Disney designed a little cartoon mouse and changed the world as we know it. The trident is an incredibly powerful weapon, and is full of magic. It's so powerful, in fact, that it allows King Triton to control the sea and cause enormous storms. This power can be used to make life a lot more difficult on the surface, causing ships to crash and capsize. Or it can be used for good, like in the case of helping defeat the incredibly powerful sea witch Ursula. Hopefully, if you stay on King Triton's good side, you'll only ever get the friendly, lovable version of the king of the merpeople. Jafar's snake staff. Jafar is one of those Disney villains who will go down in history as one of the best bad guys out there. Probably because Aladdin itself is definitely one of the top 3 Disney movies ever made.
Do you trust me?
And it just wouldn't be the same without the malicious Jafar and his snake staff. While for the first bit of the movie, his staff seems just like a cool walking stick that's there to simply complete Jafar's outfit, we quickly realize it has so much more power than it appears. Early on, he uses the staff to hypnotize the Sultan, in order to get him to agree to allow Jafar to marry Jasmine. Once his victims gaze into the ruby eyes of the snake staff's head, they fall under its spell and become powerless against him. But later on in the movie, once Jafar has forced the genie to make him the most powerful sorcerer in the world, it's a whole other story. Suddenly, it becomes endowed with a whole host of other magical abilities, and he's able to use it to do all sorts of terrible damage. OMNIDROID version 10. We don't think we'll ever get over how much we love the first Incredibles movie, and we wouldn't want to. The story of the Incredible family just trying to live life, having left their superhero glory days behind them before realizing that they can't ignore their super ways is pretty much the perfect Disney movie. It's hilarious and heartwarming, with amazing animation and pitch-perfect voice actors behind the iconic characters.
Because it'd be great!
This is not about you!
It also happens to contain one of the craziest weapons we've ever seen in the Disney universe before, the OMNIDROID version 10. The version 10 is the final OMNIDROID that was created by the movie's wannabe bad guy, Syndrome. The giant metal ball on 6 super strong legs is the kind of enemy that it seems almost impossible to defeat. So much so that when the militaries deploy to try and fight it as it wreaks havoc on Metroville, they have almost zero effect on it. It's programmed to be intelligent. It can withstand any bullets or other man-made weapons. It's unimaginably strong, has rocket launchers that allow it to fly, and has a laser cannon. It is so strong that in the end, the only weapon capable of defeating it was itself. MICROBOTS. Well, you definitely don't want to get in the way of something huge like the OMNIDROID version 10, it's also the tiny ones you've got to watch out for. We learned this in the adorable Big Hero 6.
I have found where your tiny robot wants to go.
When Hiro Hamada introduced us to the MICROBOTS. While these tiny nanobots may seem harmless and too small to do any damage, that is very much not the case. These little guys can join together with one another to take on different shapes and constructs. They were created with the intention of using them for architecture and infrastructure purposes and for the good of humanity. But when stolen by Robert Callaghan, they suddenly become a very dangerous weapon. Disney has come up with some of the most amazing weapons ever, either for good or for evil. Which one on this list was your favorite? Did we miss any that we've just got to know about? If so, let us know in the comments below. We want to hear what you think. While you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and keep up with all the latest videos from The Binger.